Dear Evan Hansen is the new musical adaptation directed by Chbosky and stars Ben Platt, Kaitlyn and Amandla Stenberg, and follows the story of Evan Hansen, a socially awkward teen who is in his last year of high school and is told by his therapist to begin writing letters to himself to help boost his self-confidence. However, when another teen known as Connor finds one of these letters, he takes it from him and then several days later commits suicide. And the parents of Connor find the Dear Evan Hansen letter on their son's body, and so they soon believe that Evan Hansen and Connor were best friends, and Evan Hansen tries his best to tell them that they were not friends at all, but seeing how much it is hurting this family, he decides to go with the biggest lie ever and begins to make up this story that they were friends in a way to comfort this family. Guys, this is a very controversial movie that we have here. This is a movie that has been getting a lot of bad reviews from many critics, but some positives along the way. And I have to say that I genuinely enjoyed this film. However, I think it does have a lot of problems with it, and we will be getting into those. But I do want to talk a little bit about the controversy first off. Some of this dealing with the casting of Ben Platt, who is like 27 years old, and he's playing a high schooler. And to me, this is just not a valid criticism. I do understand that we do want to get to this point where high schoolers are played by high schoolers, but I've spent my entire life watching movies where Tobey Maguire is a high schooler, and you just kind of roll with it. I just don't understand this. This has never been something that bothers me, and I think for the film itself, it helps with making Evan Hansen more of this outcast in a way, by making him kind of stand out from everybody else that does look more age appropriate. But this criticism never bothered me. Now, also, this film has been criticized for kind of sensationalizing suicide by making suicide a huge focal point and the catalyst for the story. And a lot of people have found a lot of problems with this. And I think anything is valid for making a catalyst for a story to jump off of. And I don't think it has anything bad to say about suicide. I think it's all right. But I do think that the film could have addressed some of this a whole lot better and more focused, and the film doesn't do that. So I understand this criticism, but also I don't at the same time. So first off, let's start talking about what I absolutely love about this film, and that, of course, is going to be the musical score. The music for this film is fantastic. It's done by the guys that did La La Land and The Greatest Showman, both fantastic scores, and this is very much in the same vein. It is beautiful, it is really catchy, the songs are all great and meaningful, and they're just fun to listen to. After I watched the movie, I was listening to the soundtrack to this film because it is just so good. And the performances from the actors are also really good, and what make this movie, I think, stand out more than it would otherwise. I think all the performances are good, from the people that are singing to the people that aren't singing. Ben Platt, in particular, really carries this film. Despite his age, he is able to really get into this character. This is a character that he has played before in the stage musical, and he really knows his way around this character. He knows this character, and he is so good at being this socially awkward teen that is going through a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and he's not always likable. And I think that is another thing that people have been talking about, which is the character of Evan Hansen is not the most likable character in the world. And I think people tend to forget that your protagonist doesn't always have to be the most likable. They can be a complete scumbag. And you want to see them succeed, you want to see them change or grow, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And in the case of Evan Hansen, I think he does learn something by the end of this film, just not in a way that most people would find satisfying, but I myself found satisfying. I think Ben Platt does a great job. I really like this character and I related to him a lot in certain ways, not in other ways, but I think for the most part, he's really good. But also the rest of the cast is really good. Kaitlyn Dever is absolutely fantastic. I love her so much. Ever since seeing her in Booksmart, she is just an actress that I know I want to keep looking at to see where her career goes moving forward. Amandla Stenberg is also really good, although she doesn't have very much to do in the film, but she does have two musical numbers that are all very well sung. Also, the other bigger actors in the film are also really good. The guy that plays Connor's dad, as well as Amy Adams, and also Julianne Moore, who plays Evan Hansen's mother. I think all the performances in this film are really good and really sell the emotion of the film. The singing is really good and all of that. I also found that the third act of this film is really good. I think it is really good, and it ends in a spot that I wasn't necessarily expecting, and it may not be the most satisfying of endings, but it is satisfying for our main character, who definitely does learn something throughout this film, and I found that really compelling. Now, let me get into some of the stuff that really doesn't work with this film, and I think the worst offender of this is the direction by Chbosky. I feel like he was kind of on autopilot throughout this entire film. The film itself is kind of bland and sterile. Aside for the opening song, this film just isn't that flashy, and it's just kind of bland to look at. Many of the stagings of these musical numbers are just people sitting and singing to each other, and then they'll get up and sing some more. And the first, song doesn't necessarily do this. It is flashy, it is big, and it really gets you into the story. However, after that, just none of the other musical numbers, aside for the one that is, kind of the main anthem of this story, is as compelling in, a staging sense. It's beautifully sung, it means a lot, but the staging is really a problem. I also mentioned that I think that they could have done a better job of addressing the things that this musical is dealing with, such as teen suicide. And I feel like there's never really been a show or a movie that has really nailed this. This is something that is very hard to do, especially if you've never experienced something like this. It's hard to get right. And I think the film does an admirable job, but I think it does stumble here and there, and it makes the film just not as solid as it really could have been, because this could have been just the movie to get it right, and it doesn't necessarily do that. However, I still loved the performances, I loved the music, I liked the message overall, but I think that it has several flaws in the directing department, but also I think they do a disservice to Amandla Stenberg's character by kind of making her an antagonist for no particular reason at one scene in the movie, and she makes this really selfish decision that doesn't really fit with what we've seen from the character at this point, and you would think that she would be more caring about what she is about to do, and it just leads to a lot of problems for me going into that third act. But still, overall, I did enjoy this movie, and I think it's getting a lot of flack for some good reasons, but others not so much. So anyway, guys, with all that said, I'm going to give Dear Evan Hansen a 7 out of 10. Well, guys, I want to thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and stay positive.